Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So it is game day for the Indiana Fever, and there are a lot of eyes on this organization right now. There are a lot of questions surrounding Stephanie White, the Indiana Fever front office, and the direction of this team. And based on everything we've seen recently, it looks like the drama is far from over. Now, we've already watched the situation involving Sophie Cunningham become one of the biggest talking points around this team. We've seen the discussions online, we've seen fans debate what is happening behind the scenes, and now, as we head into another game, it feels like Sophie Cunningham may not be the only player feeling the effects of what's going on. Because if you look closely, it appears that Lexi Hall could be next. And that's what has a lot of fans frustrated. The Indiana Fever entered the season with huge expectations. There was excitement everywhere. There was talk about championships. There was talk about taking the next step. There was talk about building around Caitlyn Clark and creating an environment where this team could become one of the best teams in the WNBA. But instead of talking about championships, fans are talking about controversy. Instead of talking about dominance, fans are talking about confusion. Instead of talking about basketball, people are talking about locker room dynamics. And that's a major problem. The reality is that this organization has looked completely dysfunctional at times. Every week, there seems to be another controversy. Every week, there seems to be another question that nobody wants to answer. And when you watch the press conferences, when you watch the interviews, when you watch the reactions from players and coaches, you can tell that something just feels off. There appears to be a divide, there appears to be tension, and there appears to be a disconnect between what fans expected and what they are actually getting. Now, today, the Indiana Fever are set to take on the Chicago Sky. And this game is bigger than a lot of people realize, because it is not just about getting a win. It is about sending a message. It's about showing what direction this team is going in. It's about showing whether the Indiana Fever are actually willing to put their best players in position to succeed. Now, let's talk about Lexi Hall. We've watched her minutes fluctuate throughout the season. We've watched her role become less consistent. We've watched situations where it felt like she should have been getting more opportunities. And last game was another example. Her playing time was extremely limited. Fans noticed it. Analysts noticed it. Everybody noticed it. And when you combine that with everything else happening around this team, it raises questions because Lexi Hall has consistently been one of the players who brings energy, effort, and toughness to the floor. She competes, she hustles, she does the little things, yet somehow it feels like she keeps getting pushed further and further into the background. And let's not forget what happened earlier in the season. Lexi Hall was one of the players who seemed to get pushed aside during the DeWanna Bonner situation. When DeWanna Bonner arrived, there were expectations, there were promises, there were plans. Then everything changed. DeWanna Bonner was suddenly gone, fans were left confused, questions were never fully answered, and Stephanie White never really provided a clear explanation that satisfied everyone. At the same time, Natasha Howard arrived with major expectations as well. Yet, despite all the roster moves and all the promises, the Fever still haven't looked like the powerhouse team many expected. And now it feels like some of the players who sacrificed the most are still paying the price. Lexi Hall is one of those players. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham continues to be one of the biggest storylines surrounding this team. Every move she makes gets analyzed. Every minute she plays gets discussed. And fans continue to speculate about whether she's being treated fairly. The fact that Caitlyn Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hall have become such major talking points says everything about where this organization currently stands. Now, let's talk about Caitlyn Clark, because whether people like it or not, Caitlyn Clark remains the engine that drives this franchise. She is the face of the organization. She is the biggest attraction in the sport. She is the reason arenas are packed. She is the reason television ratings continue to rise. And whenever the basketball is in her hands, something special can happen. We've seen it over and over again. The passing, the vision, the shot making, the creativity, the ability to completely change the momentum of a game. When Caitlyn Clark is playing aggressively, the Indiana Fever become a different team. That is why today's game is so important, because the Fever are facing a Chicago Sky team that has struggled this season. The Sky sit at 4-8, but let's not pretend this is an automatic win, because the Indiana Fever haven't exactly looked dominant themselves. This team has been inconsistent. This team has been disappointing relative to expectations. This team has struggled to establish an identity. And if we're being honest, they haven't looked anything close to a championship contender. Remember all the preseason hype? Remember all the talk about competing for a title? Remember all the excitement? Where did it go? Because you don't hear people talking about championships anymore. Now people are simply hoping this team can put together consistent performances. And that's a huge difference. The Fever were fortunate to escape with a win against the Washington Mystics. A lot of people felt they should have lost that game. The Mystics are rebuilding. The Mystics are developing young players, and yet the Fever still found themselves struggling. So anyone overlooking the Chicago Sky is making a mistake. The Sky have players capable of causing problems. Camila Cardosa continues to be a major presence inside. Her size creates challenges for opposing defenses. Her rebounding can change games. Her physicality can impact the flow of a matchup. Then you have Skylar Diggins, a veteran, a competitor, a player who understands how to control the pace of a game. Skylar Diggins knows how to exploit defensive mistakes. She knows how to create opportunities, and she knows how to lead. If the Fever don't take her seriously, she can absolutely make them pay. Then there's Jacy Sheldon, and every time her name comes up, fans immediately remember previous matchups involving Caitlyn Clark. Jacy Sheldon plays hard. She plays aggressively. She competes every possession. And whenever she's on the floor against Caitlyn Clark, people pay attention. That's why awareness will be important in this game. The Fever need to be prepared. They need to stay focused. They need to avoid unnecessary mistakes. Now, if Indiana wants to win this game, it starts with Caitlyn Clark. Simple as that. The ball needs to be in her hands. She needs to be aggressive. She needs to attack. She needs to dictate the action. Because when Caitlyn Clark is controlling the offense, everything opens up. The pace improves, the ball movement improves, the spacing improves, the opportunities improve, and most importantly, the entire team becomes more dangerous. I expect Caitlyn Clark to come out motivated. I expect her to come out looking to make a statement. I expect her to come out looking for a big performance, a true Clark show, because this is exactly the type of matchup where she can take over. The next key is screen setting. Aaliyah Boston, Misha Hines-Allen, and Monique Billings have to create better opportunities for the guards. Good screens create separation. Good screens create advantages. Good screens force defenses to make difficult decisions. Monique Billings has shown she can set effective screens. Misha Hines-Allen has shown she can do the same. The Fever need consistency in that area, because if Caitlyn Clark is constantly fighting through defensive pressure without quality screens, the offense becomes much harder to operate. Then we have Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell remains one of the most talented scorers on the roster. Nobody questions her ability to put points on the board. Nobody questions her confidence. Nobody questions her shot making. But the Fever need balance. They need ball movement. They need efficient decision making. When the offense flows, everybody benefits. When the ball moves, everybody becomes involved. And that's what Indiana needs today. The fourth key is defense. The Fever have to contain Chicago's perimeter players. Skylar Diggins is dangerous. Natasha Cloud is experienced. Gabriela Hequez can contribute. This is a guard-oriented team, and if Indiana allows those players to get comfortable early, things could become difficult. Defensive intensity has to be there from the opening tip. Communication has to be there. Effort has to be there. The Fever cannot wait until the second half to start playing defense. And finally, Aaliyah Boston has to win her matchup against Camila Cardosa. These two players know each other well. They've faced each other before, they've battled before, and this matchup could have a major impact on the outcome of the game. Indiana needs Aaliyah Boston to establish herself early. They need her rebounding, they need her physicality, they need her presence in the paint. If she wins that matchup, it significantly increases Indiana's chances of winning the game. As for Stephanie White, fans continue to debate every decision she makes. Every rotation gets questioned, every substitution gets analyzed, every coaching choice becomes a topic of discussion. And whether fair or unfair, that's simply the reality of coaching a team led by Caitlyn Clark. The spotlight is enormous, the expectations are enormous, and every move is magnified. At the end of the day, this is a game the Indiana Fever should win. But should doesn't guarantee anything. The Chicago Sky are going to compete. They're going to fight. They're going to try to take advantage of every mistake. So Indiana has to show up ready. Most importantly, fans want to see Caitlyn Clark playing her game. They want to see the offense running through her. They want to see her creativity. They want to see her confidence. And they want to see another Clark show. We'll see if that happens tonight. Get down in the comments and let me know what you think. Do you think the Indiana Fever take care of business against the Chicago Sky? Do you think Caitlyn Clark has a huge game? And what are your thoughts on the situations involving Stephanie White, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hall? Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.